and CEO, the managing partner of Oxendine Law. You can check them out at oxlawfirm.com. Jarrod, always a pleasure having you on the program. How you doing?
Gentlemen, good afternoon. Doing amazingly well. Better than I deserve, actually. Thanks for asking.
Well, again, appreciate hearing that. So obviously we're a sports station, right? So what happens, like, say a family gets season tickets, and then all of a sudden the relationship doesn't work anymore? Have you ever had to deal with something like that? You get, I don't know, a certain amount of tickets. If it's an NFL season, you get 8, the other person gets 7, something along those lines?
Yeah, great question. I've actually had to deal with that. So, yeah, you can divide the tickets up. So you go to one game, and then I'll go to the next. You can give them all to the other person in exchange for getting a larger share of the remaining assets. They can be sold. You know, we had one case where we were arguing over some coveted Masters tickets, and it wasn't just for that season. Like, these folks had 4 tickets that were good in perpetuity. Weren't free. They still had to kind of pay a fee, but they had basically inherited them a long time ago, got a great deal, and they were like in perpetuity. They've got these 4 highly coveted Masters tickets. And so what we ended up doing is, you know, Masters week, one party would go on Thursday and Friday, and then the other party would go on Saturday and Sunday, and then the next year they would swap it to where who didn't have Thursday and Friday would now get, you know, they'd switch with the other party so that, you know, not one person always had Masters Sunday every year. So that was interesting. The other interesting part about that case was the wife's father had the other 4 tickets. So there's really 8 tickets total. So there was a big discussion with the husband about maybe you just want to kind of give these to your wife so you don't have to hang out with your ex-father-in-law when you go to the Masters. Yeah. But that was a fun case.
Yeah, that must have been a fancy pants family is what that actually says to me. Here's my question. When you're splitting up stuff in a house, has it ever gotten down to where somebody will fight for a toaster like it's the actual house? I mean, how bad can it get to what level of minutia can one of those divisions come to?
Yeah, which is kind of silly. I have had cases where it's come down to literally the pots and the pans. Most smart people do not spend hundreds and thousands of dollars arguing over items they can replace for essentially $10 to $25. But I did have one emotionally contested case where we tried this case, and these parties had more money than God. And at the end of the last day of a 4-day trial, we're arguing over plastic dog toys. And we're trying to figure out who's going to get the plastic dog toys. We're talking about 25-cent plastic dog toys. And so we take a break, and I look at the other attorney. I'm like, you know what? These parties are arguing over these plastic toys. Nobody's mentioned anything about a dog. And the other attorney was like, you're right. Let me check. Long story short, the dog had passed away like 5 years earlier, and they're sitting there literally spending hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, arguing over plastic dog toys. Can you believe that?
No, but it has to be true, and I'm sure this is one of many crazy things that you've seen over the years. So let's say an agreement's in place, and both parents are living in state, and then all of a sudden one of the parents decides they want to move out of the state. They have to move out of the state. Do you have to rip it all up and start all over again?
Yeah, that's going to be important in custody. So let's say you've got a 50-50 arrangement, for example, where one party has half the time, the other party's got the other half of the time. The only way that works is if you both live close together. And so if one party's going to move out of state, then you've got to give at least 30 days advance written notice so that the other party can file a claim with the court to try and modify custody and parenting time, because obviously if somebody's moving to Florida and the agreement was made in Fulton County, Georgia, we're going to have to change custody and certainly parenting time. So that can always be modified under those circumstances.
Jarrod, last one, whether it's because of a move or because of the financial part of it, when it comes to things like school tuition, and I mean that can start in kindergarten, that can start in pre-K all the way up to college, what's the general rule of thumb how tuition, is there usually an argument, or is that put aside where everybody goes for the better of the children? That's not going to be one of the things we argue about.
Y'all are super smart today, by the way. I'm really impressed by these questions. Y'all are on it. I like it. Tuition, that's a great question. On college, no court can obligate somebody to pay for college expenses. So the law says you only have to pay for children that are minors. You can agree to pay for college, and the judge will sign off on it, but the judge can't otherwise make you do it. So, of course, when I'm representing clients, unless they're just adamant that they want to obligate themselves to pay for college, I always tell them, look, you can do that if you want to, but don't obligate yourself under a court order to do so. As far as private tuition is concerned, before college, the court's just going to look and say, hey, has this historically been incurred? So let's say the children have been going to private school for 5 years, and all of a sudden we get a divorce. The judge probably will make that private school continue to be due and paid by the party that makes most of the money, or shared between the parties. If all of a sudden we're getting divorced and the kids have never been in private school, and one party says, hey, I really want my kids to go to Greater Atlanta Christian even though they've never been there, the judge is not going to make that.
All right, Jarrod, someone's thinking about taking that next step. Where do they need to contact you?
Go to the website, oxlawfirm.com. You can submit an online request. We will promptly get back with you, or give us a call, 770-497-8688. First consult is on me.
All right, Jarrod Oxendine, always a pleasure. Owner, CEO, managing partner of Oxendine Law, oxlawfirm.com. Always appreciate him coming on and spreading some very, very good information when it comes to divorce, and if you're thinking about a divorce, what you need to do. When we come back, some